our psalm this morning said, "Those who run after other gods shall have their troubles multiplied." Today, on this second Sunday in Lent, we begin to engage a very familiar Lenten theme, this theme of suffering. And this is a theme we don't particularly enjoy looking at. This is a painful thing. We have to suffer a bit to look at suffering. But St. Paul assures us that nothing, no kind of trouble, no powers, no demons, nothing in all the world can separate us from the love of God, not even suffering. Now, to the young and the immature, suffering can seem like failure, like I've done something wrong. Oh, what is this? I remember being on the track team, and the second day of the season, I couldn't get out of bed. I was so stiff from what the coach had put us through that my brother had to pull me out of bed. And the coach had told us, he said, the second day of the season is the most difficult. He said, I don't care how badly you feel in the morning, you come to school because you need to be at practice. So I did. And it was really a dreadful day. And but I hadn't done anything wrong. It's just that kind of physical activity makes you hurt. Well, one of the things we begin to learn about suffering as we mature is that there are different kinds of suffering. There's necessary suffering. We all have parents who age and then die. And part of our tasks as good sons and daughters is to bury them. And that is never easy. It's never fun to do. It hurts. But it's just part of life. And so we do that. But there is another kind of suffering that's quite a bit different. It's suffering that I can choose. Suffering I choose to go through for a greater good. If you decide you want to have a family, and you go through all the trouble of pregnancy and delivery, and then the next 6 months you don't get any sleep, you do it because there's a greater good, hopefully. But the greatest good of all in the church is learning to obey God. Well, maybe a story will help about choosing to suffer when you don't really have to. The great violinist Paganini came out one night and stood before his audience, and just before he was to begin playing, he discovered something was wrong with his violin. And as he looked at it, he realized this wasn't his violin at all, but some kind of cheap substitute. And so he felt paralyzed for a moment, being on center stage with a full house waiting for him to play. And he walked off stage, walked behind the curtain, because he thought he just made a mistake. He picked up the wrong instrument. But when he got back to where he had left his violin case, he realized somebody had stolen his violin, because it was worth a great deal of money, and left this second-hand cheap substitute in its place. And he kind of froze for a second, and then he walked back on center stage. And he looked at the audience and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you something." He said, "This is not my violin, but I want to prove to you tonight that the music is not in the instrument, but in the soul." And then he began to play. And he played like he had never played before on a second-hand cheap substitute. And he demonstrated clearly to everyone in the house that the music was in his soul and not in that little wooden machine. And he did not have to do that. But he chose to suffer through a performance with that instrument to make a point to those people. Now, let's look at these lessons to see something very similar here. Now, most of us in the Episcopal Church and in the Anglican Communion don't like to read the Old Testament for whatever reason, but you don't really understand the New Testament unless you get that good foundation of the Old. And when you read the Old Testament, you read it with the new in mind. And so what we find in this Old Testament lesson from Genesis is Abraham. Abraham's being asked to do something really, really hard. God is asking him to sacrifice his son, his only son Isaac. Abraham take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I shall show to you. And this is a moment, I think, of pure dread that every parent knows. We all have a fear that somehow life and circumstance is going to take away something really precious that we love. And I want to assure you, parents who face this experience it as a terrible failure that, oh no. But Abraham does what God asks because he is obedient. And in Abraham's life, God comes first. Nothing else. There, he places no other gods before God. And you know, this is a mistake many parents make, is they'll make their children the first priority, not God. That's a mistake. Well, just before he is to sacrifice Isaac, he's got him bound on top of the wood. He's about to set it on fire. The Lord tells him to stop, and he provides a ram. And what is perfectly clear is that Abraham is ready and about to do everything that God had asked. And you see, Abraham had chosen the course of suffering for the higher good. He had chosen to put God first. And I know lots of people really, really dislike this lesson, thinking that, oh no, a good God would not ask this of me. Oh yeah. He asks us all the time, are we going to put him first? Are we going to put the Lord our God first, like we said in the Ten Commandments? You shall have no other gods before me. Now, Peter and the disciples face a similar moment in the 8th chapter of the Gospel of St. Mark. Peter and the disciples have just been asked, who do you say that I am? Oh, you are the Christ. You are the Messiah, Peter says. And how he knows, we don't know. He is able to confess this essential truth. And then Jesus goes on to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer and die.